the cloud. Today is February the 5th, and I would like to mention what's coming next. So for the rest of the month, we are going to have, oh gosh, why is stop? So for the rest of the month, we have, our meetings, study. I do not know why it's moving. This thing has a life on its own. So let me just do this. And so we have our meetings, and on February the 26th, I will try to present a study that I presented to my Spiritist Center, the one that I am part of here in Houston. There is this Spiritist Center for Portuguese, people speaking Portuguese, and every once in a while they ask me to present some studies, so I did that about this book, On the Way to a World of Regeneration, and it is a very nice book. There is, I didn't know that until a couple hours, but there is an English version of this book. And but before I do that, I thought about also talking about who the medium, the author and the medium of that book, who they are. So the medium is this guy, Divaldo Pereira Franco. He is Brazilian, and he is compared to, we can compare his work as the same as Chico Xavier, in a way that he does a lot of social type of work, but also mediumship type of work. And I put a picture of it here of his, we can say, institute. Is also like, is like an entire block that's all his place to help other people. So he has a school over there, he has a hospital, he has so many buildings out there just to help people. Evidently, he didn't build this from day to night. It took him a lot of years, lots of efforts. And so he has adopted 682 plus orphans, and he's currently assisting 3,500 plus needy people.
Anna, who are you talking about?
Divaldo
Pereira Franco?
Franco, this guy.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes.
Because there's three people there.
Yeah, actually just two. Divaldo is the medium. This guy is the spirit who did, how can I say, help Divaldo writing this book over here. And so Divaldo is a very known personality in Brazil, and in several countries as well. And the spirit, the name of the spirit is Manuel Filomeno de Miranda. He was the head of this Spiritist Center fraternity group in, I guess it was in Rio, if I'm not mistaken. No, in Bahia, actually, my state. And he was very known by his personality, very honest, very high moral values type of person. And he was a member of the Spiritist Center in Bahia, and did help a lot in that regards, in the dissemination of the Spiritism in Bahia. So a very interesting thing that happened to me is when I was preparing the material to present the study for my center, my Spirit Center, I was putting all the slides together, and then I was just doing my dry run and kind of checking if I was on time, etc., etc. When I saw someone standing in front of me, and I didn't know who that person was. I was just waving and say, okay, I'm busy now. I cannot talk to you. I'm just busy. And so I did my presentation to the Spirit Center here in Houston. But then as I was putting together the slides for this group, and I thought, well, why not translating the presentation and presenting to our folks? And then I said, I guess I need to tell them who they are, you know, because I'm going to talk about this book on the way to the world of regeneration, but then they do not know nothing. They know nothing about the author or the spirit. So, and then I was looking for a picture of the spirits. It was him. I had no idea how the way that he was looking like, but this guy was right there, and that's okay. So perhaps he really wants us to talk about the book and see what he had to say about the book. Anyway, so with that, I will go ahead. I have other stuff. No, we have passed that. So this is the last question that we studied, 654. The answer is really long, so I just took, you know, the first paragraph and the second. So just a recap, quick recap. Does God prefer any specific type of worship? And the answer, first paragraph, God prefers people who sincerely worship from their heart by doing good and avoiding wrongdoing over those who follow elaborate rituals or ceremonies, but are not truly better than their neighbors. Last paragraph, do not ask if any specific form of worship is more acceptable than another, because there is akin to asking if God prefers to be worshipped in one language over another. Remember that the hymns addressed to God can only reach their target through the heart. So with that, so let's go ahead and go to the next question. Is number 655. Is it wrong to participate in ceremonies and practice the sacraments of a religion in which we do not sincerely believe when done out of respect for our loved ones and acquaintances, and in order not to offend those who think differently? It's quite a long question. So what do we think? Is it wrong to participate in ceremonies and practice the sacraments of a religion in which we do not sincerely believe when done out of respect for our loved ones and acquaintances, and in order not to offend those who think differently? I have a personal opinion about this. Does anyone? Okay, so Giles.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, of course, this is an easy one to answer because it's intention which matters. We have come across all kinds of possible, that's why it's so difficult to make laws for humans, because whenever you make a law, the law applies across everybody. And then things that people do actually vary enormously by their intention. If you kill 5 people in a car because you're driving a truck and you closed your eyes at the wrong time, well, what was your intention? It's a pure accident. You'll never forgive yourself, or not in this lifetime anyway, but it was a pure accident. And then on the other hand, if you go down to the gun shop and plan a series of nasty behavior with guns, well, then there's intention. So it's intention all the way.
Yep. Thank you. Hi, Steve.
Yes, I think that you are with someone and they have a deep conviction, and you accompany them and you listen to them. And it's in a kind of sympathy with them. And you honor that, because that's what we're all talking about. And maybe you can learn something from it. Yep. Because they are sincere in doing this, and you see this. Yep. I say this because when I met Muslims for the first time in Jakarta, and we realized that there's women talking, that we had the same thoughts and making the same prayers for our families, for our children, and for all of this sort of thing. And I thought, yes, there's no real difference to where we are in outlook. I'm not talking about those extremists and so forth, but this is a normal people. And so we celebrated each other's feasts. Mm-hmm. So it's to live harmoniously, because people have different thoughts and different religions.
Yes, and as long as you're not swearing at them and saying your God's a false God, and
exactly,
other exactly. ridiculous fundamentalist statements, then you're fine. Okay, sorry, Annie, it's your turn.
Annie.
This is a very interesting question, because I was just speaking with somebody about this the other day. I grew up with a very Roman Catholic father and a very Jewish mother. So two extremes. And when my son William went home, I had many people contact me, and one of them was another neighbor. I have a lot of neighbors in my crescent that we've all lived here for over 20 years and are very, very good friends. And my neighbor that lives behind me, Yvonne, who is an extreme devout Irish Catholic lady, she said, what can I do for you? And I said, I would just like you to come over and have a visit with me. And so after she had come over and had a visit, she then sent me a message and said, I would like to have a mass for William. And I did not want to have a mass for William. But I knew how important that was for her. And so I said, that's fine. And I went to the mass and I sat there and listened to this priest talk about our sins. And I thought to myself, I'm human and I make mistakes. And I am at the point where I just can't even stand the word sin. And I'm not sure if I'll ever go to another mass, but I know it meant a lot to her. And so I did go. I don't know that I felt the right way when I was there, but I honored her. And so I do think if you can bite your tongue and you know, do something for people, then why not? This friend of mine, Yvonne, is in her 70s, and it meant a lot to her, and she loved William. So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. You shared this story, and it's really touching, and for sure there are lots of wisdom in that, you know. The other thing that I thought as well is in the mass, you may not know about everybody there, you know, sitting with you and the rest of the folks and the priest, but you may not agree with everything that the priest was saying, but one thing we cannot deny is the value of the prayer and the intention of your son and reaching out to your son. And that's something that you really would be very happy to see how that works so well. So I'm glad you agreed with that.
Yes.
Luis, please, you're next.
Okay, thank you. Well, it reminds me, this stuff reminds me of some ecumenic meetings I was invited to participate in here in Belo Horizonte. As many times when there were the graduation of doctors from the University of Federal University here, I was invited to join a priest and a Catholic priest and a Protestant pastor in an ecumenic encounter here in the main churches here in my town. And the principle was all that you need to be very respectful to other people's thoughts. And of course, when you do this inside within the Catholic Church, they kind of force you a little bit into their ritual, into their ways, you know, and you patiently accept that for you to convey your message. You understand? It was very important. Many times, so I once spoke for about 5,000 people in one of these encounters. I spoke about Jesus in the Spiritist view, and there came a man, and after my speech, he said, "Look, I'm Catholic, but I've never heard such a brilliant explanation about Jesus Christ that I've just heard from you now." I said, "Yes, but the explanation was not mine, it was a Spiritist explanation, right?" And he said, "Thank you so much, because now I think I'll be a better Catholic after that." So it was very, when you have an open heart, you know, and you don't get attached to this physical thing, physical appearances, I think things can get, you know, at a higher level.
Precisely, yes.
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 And by the way, we have a friend of us. She's a nun. She's a very nice nun, and she spoke in many spiritist centers in Brazil. Yeah.
Yeah, look, and there was a resistance, right? From some spiritist centers. Look at how things happen, you know, because she was a Catholic nun, right? And she studied the Spiritism with me, because this is one of the rules, one of the duties of her parish, of her organization. She needs to study any kind of philosophy. So she said, "I'm going to study Spiritism with you." And of course, she, in my opinion, she's reincarnationist, for example, because she had been through some experiences very important that.
And she read all the books.
She read all the books. Yes, it was very nice.
Yes.
But of course, she wouldn't be so. But and then she started being invited from by Spiritist centers all over the world. She spoke in Germany. She spoke in Japan, right, in Spiritist centers. So it was very nice. Was a next level in this situation. Very good.
Very nice. Yeah. Thank you, Luis.
Mhm.
Dr. Len, you're next.
Well, I think a lot of it is, first of all, tolerance of the heart, love of the heart. And it's very specific for the individual. Every church, synagogue, mosque, they said, "We are the true church. We are the true." So you always get that indoctrination. Okay. And a lot of these, I grew up in a very strict Italian family in New York City, and everything was the Roman Catholic Church. Okay. And I described it in great detail in my first book. But I think a lot of it is, look, it's good to be skeptical about things, but open-minded skeptical. And that is, you're open to thoughts. If you're totally closed-minded, which a lot of religious people are, because every new concept is a threat to their world, that you go nowhere. How are you ever going to learn new things?
Mhm.
So you be open-minded skeptic, and then you look for evidence, you know, a very analytical approach. I'll give you a personal example. I have 4 sons. The oldest son is a very strict Wesleyan minister. And since I've started the spiritual journey with Felicia the last 3 years and all our books, he refuses to read our books, and he refuses to speak to me. He hasn't spoken to me in 2 years. And he now, because he's worried about my influence on the grandchildren, I'm not allowed to even talk to my grandchildren from him. And they're very I hate to use the term, but very fanatical, closed-minded. Any new thought is a threat to their world. It's sad. But then you look at a lot of religious people. Remember the famous medium, Janet Nohovicek? I mean, she was a Jesuit nun. And then now she left the order and she became a world-class medium. So it's an individualistic thing. And I think in many respects, as Louis, you point, it affects us personally too. But it all comes down to tolerance of the heart and open-minded.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I really like that, because that's exactly one of the reasons why I like Kardec so much, is because exactly that criteria, open mind, but a skeptic a little bit.
That's how you learn new things. If you're
Mhm.
totally closed-minded, no matter what discipline it is, you're never going to learn new things. How are you going to learn
Yes.
new things?
Yes.
Can I say here that this is something that bothers me? He is a Christian minister
Exactly.
and he won't talk to his father. What kind of bullshit is that?
Exactly.
No
I love you,
tolerance.
Hyacinth. I love it.
No
That's what it is. I
tolerance.
said, you're a man of the cloth. I says, I'm your father. And you
Mhm.
won't even allow me now to talk to my own grandchildren.
Mhm.
Is that's a man of religion, of love, right? Religion of love. Exactly, Hyacinth. You said it. I didn't want to say it, but you said it the best way. That's true. It's hypocritical.
Mhm. Yes.
Thank you, Hyacinth.
So it
Hyacinth, you
is.
still got your hand up.
Oh,
Maria Jose, it's your.
Maria?
Yes, I will talk a little. We have believed through the many centuries of appearances, respecting other people's beliefs is the least we can do to show that we understand the rights of others,
Mhm.
as long as this belief does not clearly harm anyone. But leaving any religion to maintain appearances is the same as dying of thirst with a glass of water at the head of the bed. For me,
Mhm.
the greatest loss will be ours. We are living in a time of earth transition, and with only authentic achievements, that's right, achievements,
Achievements, yeah.
yes, we'll be able to sustain a person in the face of the challenges we face today.
Mhm.
This time is the truth time.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
can't lost any time.
Yes. Yeah. We cannot lose any time. Yep. Yeah. Thank you, Maria. Very well said. I would add as well, no one will have authority to talk about love if you not know how to live it.
Walk the walk.
Walk the, yes.
I got to say this because it's just too much. If the Christianists in America would actually behave according to what they preach in churches, oh, life would be a lot easier. Sorry, it's Debbie's turn.
Debbie, please. You next.
Hi, this isn't really, I just wanted to say, when my son Allan passed away, and I had to ask for time off of work. And so then my boss, who's Muslim, she helped me more than anyone. And I thought I had nothing in common with that religion. But, I worked in a medical lab, of course, so did she. And she told me how she was, we would look in the microscope, type things in the computer. And she said she was doing that after her dad died, and she saw him appear in her computer. And I don't, it was just, she was just the most comforting person I listened to. So even open, I'm glad that I'm open-minded. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Debbie. Thank you. Very interesting. Claudia, you next.
I suspect, and I don't know because I have no memory of the other side, but I suspect the tolerance that we develop here out of respect and love for others will serve us well on the other side in terms of our not being stuck in any beliefs that we take with us when we go, that we'll be open to whatever we're presented with instead of saying, oh no, that doesn't fit my beliefs, so I'm going to stay stuck. I think if we're stuck in those beliefs here, we're going to be stuck in those beliefs there. And so I've thought for years now how important it is for us to be tolerant and loving. And a quick personal story, I converted to Catholicism as a teenager and went through all the training. And I was looking for, an old, what do I want to say, established religion, because there wasn't any in my family. And I couldn't figure out why, because there were good people in there. And then as a young adult, I fell away. Well, I'm a fallen away Catholic. And I haven't been to confession with a priest since my 20s. And that's a long time ago. And when my dear friends who are Catholic, when I go to Mass with them and they get up and go to communion, I go with them. Even though I haven't been to confession. And it's out of my love and respect for them that, they know I'm a fallen away Catholic. Anyway, about 5 years ago, I went to visit a first cousin who'd done a lot of genealogy research, and I found out our whole family's Jewish. And I don't know anything about the faith. And so now I have Jewish friends who are trying to bring me up to speed. But I keep saying to them, no, I'm more spiritual. I'm more of a. So I need a lot of people to be tolerant of me because I don't fit in any real category right now.
Thank you, Gloria. And you're right, once we cross over, the reality doesn't change all of a sudden. We still, there are lots of people being surprised because the reality doesn't change that much just because, you're no longer in this physical body, You're exactly right. Giles, I guess you were the next.
Maria Jose, dear, you've still got your hand up.
I don't think
know
she
it's an
realized.
oversight.
Sorry, thank you.
I know it's
Yeah,
an oversight.
you put it down, okay.
It's just, it's a question of spiritual development. If you have only had a very few incarnations, then the likelihood is you'll have bad manners, no respect for other people, and not be a pillar of society, so to speak. If you've had many incarnations and you're getting near the end of the human experience, then the reverse is true. You will be person working for good and you'll work your way around any fundamentalist nonsense. I must add, I think I've told this story before in this group, but it's a short story. Here in Wallace, North Carolina, there are Christian fundamentalists. We're all surrounded by them in the South, so to speak. And I got into a conversation with one of them on not multiple occasions. And this is a fundamentalist. So he's ready to condemn to hell anybody that's not of his religion. I keep asking people, what's the difference between Presbyterian and Methodist and so on, and nobody can tell me. But that's, I don't know, I should look it up on the internet, which I haven't bothered yet. Anyway, I did say to this Christian fundamentalist, look, being a spiritual person, there's one thing we can agree on. And he immediately got humpy like this. What do you mean? And then I said, well, we love God and love our neighbors as ourselves. Oh, he said, yes, I guess that's right. And then as luck would have it, a few months later, I found myself in West Africa talking to a Muslim imam. And where the conversation was getting a little rough as usual, because he, of course, was not delighted with my generalizations. And I said, all right, there's two things we can agree on. And he said, what? With his shoulders going up like this. And I said, love God and love your neighbor as yourself. Oh, he said, yeah, that's it. So I think that's common in all religions. So that's a good way of shutting down any disagreements or minutiae of worship. Yeah.
Thank you, Giles. Luis or Livia?
Well, this is very important what Giles was saying, because that's it, Giles. And because we like getting around this stuff very much, getting around the law of love, which is much more pleasurable. We are addicted to discussions and arguments and fights. So we get into religion to do the same old thing we've been doing the last 100,000 years, right? But when it comes with love, okay, all right, love, all right, okay. So let's love, bye. This stuff is finished, right? The argument. But by the way, I was thinking about something that I read in a book by Chico Xavier, speaking about a nun, a Catholic nun in the spirit realms. And André Luiz, the spirit who was writing through Chico, wrote that he was very surprised that that Catholic nun wouldn't go to higher realms. And because she was so good, she had such a very good heart, and the spirit, the mentor said, it's because she's still attached to the conventional physical religion from the earth. She needs that. She needs that kind of church. She needs that kind of ritual. If she wanted to, she would be able to go far in terms, but in the realms, the conventions are very different. Now, there are no conventions the way we think they are, right? So that was thinking very interesting, because that's what we see. Sometimes we see people that are spiritual, they are spiritualists, they are very intelligent, but love is not exactly what they have in their hearts, right? On the other hand, people who love very much, but have they are very attached to their physical manifestation of religion and so on and so forth. So the good thing would be, right, matching those two things, right? Go on, Hyacinth. Thank you.
Yes, if you just share with you a little story again of being in Indonesia, where we had built a community center in a very old part of Jakarta, which is very radical Muslim. And my Indonesian friend said to me, if they ask you what religion you are Christian, but you are Protestant, you are not Catholic. So I said, okay. And so I was there all the time with them. We had all sorts of programs which they enjoyed. And then there was a funeral. And I went along. And the Imam said to me after a time, are you Muslim? And I said, no, I'm Christian. And I'm Christian because my parents were Christian. And I'm sure you're Muslim because your parents were Muslim. We don't need to fight. No. And I said, and I'm sure that my prayer for our departed brother is the same as your prayer, because I am asking God to receive him with mercy, and you are asking Allah to receive him with mercy. He was quiet for a while, and then he said, I always get emotional. Actually, you're right. I shall never forget it. Because this was a radical Muslim.
Very, very nice. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Hyacinth. Very nice story. Dr. Len, you next.
Yeah, just quickly, this tragic thing is so much lunacy, so much atrocities have been created through history and present day, and they always use the term, they hide behind the term, it's God's will. That's always a big one. It's God's will. And that's so tragic when you see these atrocities in the name of God, love of God, God's will. I mean, it's just simply hypocrisy. It's lunacy. It's sad through the history and the religions of the world that so much pain, so much suffering has been committed because of they are the true church, God's will. That's all.
Yeah. I would, if you have not read this book, I would recommend you to read the book called Paul and Stevens. I do not know if you know this book, but it's a very nice one. There is an English version of this book, and I'm pretty sure you will see a lot of familiarity in that story. It's a real story, by the way, Paul and Stevens. I will try to see a link to it. I will put in the chat. But since you were the last one, would you please read the answer for us? Can you read it? Or is that too small?
Who should read it?
Who should read it?
Dr. Lin, you?
Oh, it is wrong to participate in ceremonies and practice the sacraments of a religion in which we do not sincerely believe, when done out of respect for our loved ones and acquaintances and in order not to offend those who think differently. As in so many other things, the intention determines the worth of the act. Well said. When a person is simply showing respect for the beliefs of others, it is not wrong. This is better than the person who ridicules them, because that would show a lack of charity.
Right.
However, those who carry out such practices simply for selfish motives or ambition are despicable in the eyes of God and humanity. God gets no gratification or joy out of seeing those who pretend to humble themselves solely for the approval of their fellow human beings.
Precisely.
Yes. Any comment on that?
No comment. We've said all the comments already.
Guys, as I'm fond of saying, no brownie points.
Intention matters is
Yes.
what it is. And we got three things that happen in our daily lives. We have thoughts, then we have words, and then we have actions. Now we can basically think, we can think what we like, and that we don't develop bad karma because of that. There's a mixture of opinions on that, but at least in this life, it's best you keep your thoughts to yourself and keep your mouth shut. However, the next step, which carries much more weight, is when you open your mouth and say things that hurt or uplift other people. The words have much more power than your thoughts.
Mhm.
And yes, they do affect your karma big time.
Yeah.
And well, they say your thoughts do as well, but that's pushing it. You know, let me be. And then the third thing is, of course, actions. And if you have selfish, evil actions, then you are in bad shape. And if you have good, promising, kind actions, those are your intentions, even if it doesn't work out the way you planned. You had good intentions, good words, and good actions. That's good karma.
Charles, the way to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yes, it is.
You can bet it was a Christian fundamentalist that said that.
All right. So guys, next, is group worship preferable to individual worship? What do we think? Is group worship preferable to individual worship?
Why can't you just have both?
Any comment?
Well, I like the idea of worshiping together. I like that they're praying together because I feel it's a more powerful emotion and voice and energy.
I quite agree. And Monsignor Hugh Benson in those books that we earlier recommended says that when a group is worshiping in the afterlife, the most beautiful big blue show goes up above them or comes down. And the same thing happens on this planet, he says. But so often in a church, people are thinking about how they look, they're not paying attention, in other words. And so there's no blue light and the group worship is not functioning, but it can.
Yep. Okay, Una, you next.
I think group worship does have an energetic value. If anybody's familiar with Lynn McTaggart's work on the power of intention and her power of 8 groups and global meditations and things, definitely group worship has energetically plays a very important part. But I think in some organized religions, that concept of group worship over the centuries has been hijacked maybe, or something like that, because go into the same place every week, just rattling off the same prayers and stuff, which is kind of what I grew up with. It has no value, or it has very little energetic value, very little spiritual value. So in that instance, I think I'd question what value the group work or the group getting together actually has.
Una, I can give you a very fast answer to that. If you've got 10 people in a church and they're all sincere and with good intentions and agree with each other, so to speak, and are doing it right, then yes, the blue light will be there.
Yeah.
You can have 100 people in the church and they're all looking at each other's clothing and figuring out who's the richest, and then it's all bullshit. And it can happen in the same church from one week to the next. So there's no hard and fast rule, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree. Thank you all. Leda, you next.
I think both are very important, because when you have a group, you have obviously more power. You can even have cures. You can cure someone praying together, and this has so much strength. But you must have your inner worship, your individual worship, because that's going to change you yourself. No one is going to do the work that you have to do for yourself. So when you cross to the spiritual plan, to the spiritual realms, no one is going to ask about the group. They are going to ask about your thoughts, your actions, your words, like I said. So we have to do both, because in the group, you help each other, you do this, it's the consequence of your inner work, you know?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. If you want to be of any influence in the group, you better do the inner worship first, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. So Leda, since you were the last one, would you please read the answer? Then I know if anybody else will have any comment on this.
When individuals have similar thoughts and feelings and are assembled together, they have more power to attract good spirits. The same applies when they are gathered to worship God. However, this doesn't mean that private worship is less acceptable, as people can worship God in their own thoughts.
Right.
Yeah. Any comment on that? No. So we go to the next one, which is Life of Contemplation. And there is one question there, 657. Those who have devoted themselves to a life of contemplation, doing no evil and thinking only of God, get any special merit? Any comment on that? Because I have a personal story to tell about this.
Anna, tell your story, because we're all talking and you're not getting a chance.
This is a channel for you guys to talk, not only me. But my personal story is I have been told about some previous lives, and I had some of them as a nun, as a matter of fact, 2 of them. And the first one, actually, the very first one, as a spiritual person, I became aware of a lot of knowledge, and then I was not using that knowledge in a good way. So evidently, once I crossed over, then there was a lot of regret, and so I became I came back as a nun, and as a nun, then I thought that it was the best thing for me to do was just to stay in the church and be one of those nuns, you know, just praying the whole day, not seeing anybody, just inside of the church, and, you know, just living my life and praying. Evidently, I wasted that lifetime. And then there was a lot of regret once I was, you know, back to the spiritual realm. So I came back again as a nun, but then this time I was outside. I was trying to do something. I was not just inside of the church. And then I was told that this time, as a matter of fact, the person who told me that he had no idea who I was. And he told me, this lifetime, you had this intention to become a nun, but then finally you came, you realized that you didn't need to be one to do what you do. And that person didn't know that when I was a little kid, I was telling all the time my mother that I would like to be a nun when I grew up. Fortunately, I didn't. But anyway, yeah, that's just to say, you know, from my own experience, I guess, like I have to agree with Giles, you know, it's a matter of intention and what you do in your lifetime to be of service and be of some use to help somebody else. There is no way one can achieve happiness in this life if you know of someone very close to you that is suffering, is in, you know, and is not doing well. So how come somebody can just go every single day or every single night and have a just nice sleep, not thinking about everybody else, you know, living out in the street and, you know, in the cold weather, in the very hot weather, and not thinking of those, you know, there is, so you don't have to be someone of a church to be like that.
Hyacinth had the story right last time. It would be wonderful if you would tell that story again, but shorten it this time, Hyacinth.
What?
The story of your smile.
Oh, well, as a youngster, people used to tell me their stories and so forth, but, and that I smile at people. This was just my nature, to smile at people. And so I didn't know about this incident, but years later, a man told me that he had decided to commit suicide. He had had enough of life and it was just not worth it. And I came to the bus stop and I smiled at him. And he thought, oh, maybe I won't kill myself. Now, as I said, I didn't know. I was simply smiling. I had no thought at all about anything except that this is just the nature. One thing I must tell you, Giles, that I was here some time ago and saying, dear God, isn't there anything I can do? You know, I'm not doing anything, not helping. And the thought came to me, I want you to smile at people. And I said, yes, yes, I've been smiling at people. I'm like a Cheshire cat. But the thought that you don't know what a smile does. I came home, I opened the Bible, and I said, okay, will you please give me a message? Because surely there's something I can do. The passage came to Jeremiah, which said, and if you cannot run with the foot soldiers, how can you run with the horses? And I thought, thank you, I will smile. That's all you want me to do. It's all I can do is to smile. So there you are, Giles. I can't go with the horses. I have to go with the walkers.
Yeah. Thank you, Hyacinth. Any other comment, folks, before we
Come
read
on,
the
Art,
answer?
you haven't heard a story like that before. Let's have your opinion on it. Just a smile, stop the suicide. And if you don't have anything to say, Luis will have something to say. And if not Luis, then Una.
Okay, I'll say something. Yeah, that's a good idea, because we don't know, the highest spiritual thing that there is kindness. And just a smile generated a sense of kindness in that person. Another thing, maybe backing up a little bit, this idea of worship, we need to define that, because I grew up as a Fundy Christian, and you go in there and you praise Jesus and praise God and do all this good stuff. But then I read here that worship is part of helping other people. And I wish we had a better idea that that's what worship is.
I can go into a bar and have a good time until they throw me out. and make nice spiritual speeches there.
Now let's see if I can understand, Art, your doubt. Maybe I think it's because when people get together to worship, they usually pray, and when they pray, that not only they will they worship, but they will also ask for help to others. So in this case, there's a difference. When you get together, they are saying that we have more strength. It's more powerful when a group asks for someone, but not exactly in worship, because worship actually can be, you can worship God walking on the street or even preparing your breakfast in the morning. Mm-hmm. You don't need to have a place, but as we need to respect, because some people, they believe that, for example, suppose you've been just like Anna Castro, suppose she's been a nun for the last 500 years. She will have a kind of urge of lighting a candle to pray, right? Spirits say, well, this prayer won't make any difference, but if you need it, it's, if your energy will move better inside of you to pray and in front of a candle, right? But not necessarily this is okay, really linked to the help of the charity or so that we can do to others. I don't know if I was clear. Could you understand better? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And the other thing also, Luis, is once we do pray together, the spirits, they use our energy, right, towards other people. Right? Would you comment that?
This is validated through experience. For example, you know that if you have a big church and you put an image there, and many people really believe that image can do miracles, it's possible that the image will be full of ectoplasm, right? Mm-hmm. And the spirits will use that a lot, good or bad spirits, depending on the church.
Yes.
Good or bad spirits. I remember once there was a woman, she was an art restorer. I don't know if this is the expression in English. She restored pieces of paintings, old paintings and images. And she was from a very, very well-known university here in my town. And she came to me and said, look, we have now a big painting. It's a famous painting here in my state. And we are restoring, we are renovating that painting. But all kinds of disasters are happening, right? The painting was almost burned because someone forgot some of the beak of Bunsen there. So I was talking to her, and then my mother, who's a medium, right? She came up and I introduced this woman, and my mother's already arrived, right? Kind of in trance. And the spirit who was the author of that painting came through. And he said, I have been trying to burn that painting all my life, all my spirit life here. And this painting really was, my mother didn't know that, really had been in a place that caught fire in Minas Gerais, right? And they removed that painting from that place to be restored in the university. Mm-hmm. And what I said to him said, look, you cannot do this. He had painted the Jesus fasting before, right? The crucifixion, right? And he had kind of painted something a little bit more a little pagan, more something bad. And this is intellectuals, they take advantage of that to say something, you know, kind of not very good about the painting, not very good for Christians, for example. And he was very, you know, he regretted that much in the spirit realm. He wanted to paint, to burn, to destroy, but he was putting people's lives in danger because of this. So it was a great opportunity to talk to that author, right, a famous author. And I said, look, you cannot do that. What you can do is inspire mediums to write or to paint good paintings. You can't just wash our karma with good deeds, right? It's not that you cannot be so much guilty in that situation. Well, so he was much relieved after that. And thank God, nothing happened to the painting anymore.
Not to the people. Thank you, Luis. Very nice story. Una.
Just on the idea of devoting yourself to a life of contemplation and doing no evil, from a development point of view, is that a bit of a cop-out from a spiritual development point of view? Because you don't really involve yourself in life as such. Like, okay, you're doing your contemplation bit, but are you really thinking of God and only God? And is it a bit of a cop-out when you get back to the other side because you haven't participated in life as much or at all?
Right.
So
And you're right.
That as a cop-out.
Go ahead. Yeah, you're right, because life is really interaction with other people. That's why we are here, to kind of cut the edges of, you know, that comes from our pride, our vanity, so many other edges. And we do that interacting with other people, right? So, Maria.
About this question, I want to remember that Tiago, the apostle, that's right?
Apostle.
Yes, wrote only one letter, but it is worth good. He said that the faith without works is dead. And we are not talking about external faith done to other people's, but our faith needs to be put into action in our favor. Exactly. If we can do this, we have a good faith.
Yes, precisely. Yes, yes, very well said. Very good comment. Yes. Gloria, thank you, Maria.
But the last two were my comment. I can't understand how a life of contemplation serves others. It's like isolating yourself from others instead of being, like you said, out there doing good works.
Exactly. Yes. Yes, it is. Thank
Gloria,
you.
Gloria, I have an answer for that one, if you don't mind. There are many, many, many lifetimes to fill the human experience. And in many cases, active and challenging lifetimes happen. And then that spirit can easily decide, I want a quiet life next time. And I know that because that was the case of my brother, who hardly talked to anybody and was introverted and spent his life in Texas, no less, in Austin, Texas, 40 years in a little apartment. While he had plenty of money and plenty of opportunity, he took none of it. And there's no blame attaching to him, that because one can't judge how a life suits other people or not. Where, I mean, it's only the greater masters that can make opinions like that. And it's just an opinion. So when somebody has a quiet life, it's very often because they want a rest and they're getting a rest. And there's that town in Pennsylvania with 2,000 or 3,000 people where they always incarnate back in the same town.
Giles, read the question. The question is, do you get special merit? And that's what we're responding to.
Okay, I'm sorry. No, the answer is no, obviously not.
Yeah. Luis, Livia.
Yes, I was remembering the nun we are talking about her. The priest who founded her church, he was from a noble family in Europe, and he went to a war. When he was at war, he thought, I don't want to fight anymore. He suffered a lot, and he tried to be in a contemplation life. He became a priest. So then he went in contact with many peoples in the Catholic Church from Vatican.
The Concilium, the second Concilium of Vatican in the 1960s, I think.
Yeah, and he thought, oh, I don't want just not do evil to people or to be bad or to fight. I want to do good. And he went back to his church and said, I don't want a life of contemplation anymore. I want to help people. And they didn't like this idea. They didn't help him. And then he came to Brazil and founded his church in, I don't know.
The Northeast.
Northeast.
Yeah.
And he devoted his life to poor people here in Brazil and adopted children too. He made many cures with handing up, and he made this open church that studies many philosophies and open-minded. Then it was because he decided not to have a life of contemplation anymore. He was traumatized by the war. He didn't want to fight anymore. And he thought, I want to be far away from the world. But then he decided, no, I want to help people. It's better than not to fight. Yeah.
Yes, I think the point is that the kind of merit thing, or the merit, is something that is important to know, because many people, they sometimes naively believe that by living a contemplation, life of contemplation, they'll be in heaven, and this is something that makes many people that in the afterlife become very revolted, very rebellious against religion and against even God, because what they were expecting to find was not exactly what they found.
Yeah, maybe it's necessary sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes I believe that's I've known that spirits that sometimes, okay, this reincarnation, I have lived lots of things. Reincarnation, I want to be born in a very small town in the countryside, and I don't want to be publicly recognized. It happens really.
Maybe
free will at the end of the day.
Want to do that sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. So, Luis, would you please read the answer for us?
All right.
Yeah.
No. Okay. The question is: do those who have devoted themselves to a life of contemplation doing no evil and thinking only of God, get any special merit? No, because if they do no wrongdoing, then they do not do good either. Moreover, not doing good in itself is wrong. God wants us to think of him, but God does not want us to think only of himself, since God has given the human being duties to fulfill on earth. Those who spend their entire lives in meditation and contemplation do nothing praiseworthy in God's eyes, because such a life is completely private and useless to humankind. God will ask them to account for the good they have failed to do. All right. That's it.
Any other comment? If not, guys, it's 4:16. I guess we are going to adjourn here. So thank you so much for getting together today. And I'll see you next Saturday.
No, don't
Thank you.
go. Don't go. Are you stuck? Why? What's the matter? And let's do another half hour. Come on.
Go.
Please
Yes.
don't go.
We need to go.
Anna,
See you.
I talk on this program more than I talk on any other. Absolutely.
There you go,
See you
guys.
guys.
Have
Have
a
a good
nice
one.
week.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See some of you tomorrow.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah.